Zak Butters found guilty of abusing an umpire in a hotly contested tribunal case that split the footy community.
Lachie Neale's glittering career reaches game 300, as does the phenomenal story of Cat Mark Blicavs.
And the toll catches up with Steele Sidebottom. He's out of the clash with the Blues, while Big Harry is here for Players' Night.
I said to the players today, can you help me? I'm on 360 tonight.
Are you aware of that conversation?
Yeah, I don't live under a rock.
The reality is now that the gloves are off, ball's fair and love more.
My job is pretty clear. Make Hawthorn win.
Wouldn't be very good at hide and seek, Mitch, I reckon. Marco Polo.
Marco.
I can't have that. What do you want us to play worse?
When you caught my eye and Mustang.
I reckon it's just about the greatest prize that's ever happened in footy.
Nurse had a look at it, she said, there's a dent in that cup. And I had a bit of a look, and sure enough, there is.
It's a highly litigious night, Gaz. Testimony from all angles.
Careful what we say, Jared, but it has been a very interesting 24 hours and it's come to a head, and I'm glad we've got Ray Chamberlain in the house. He'll be very interesting tonight.
A lot of he said. He always is.
Yeah. Everywhere he said. He said, everywhere.
He said,
all over
everywhere.
the place.
We are here for Ewing Insurance, made for fans. So Ray Chamberlain coming up, Patrick Dangerfield, Harry Mackay, and we'll hand over to midweek tackle with plenty going on in the footy world right now. So let's get to the top of the agenda, the war of words that reached the tribunal this afternoon. Umpire versus player in a bitterly contested case that has created its own furnace.
I think I'm a pretty honest bloke out there and have a good relationship with most umpires. Oh, man, I'd fly to the hills because, I know what I said and I know I didn't say anything bad.
This is the Port Adelaide view. We are pissed off. If he looks us in the eye and tells us he didn't do it, he didn't do it.
Holding St Kilda onto the jumper. St Kilda free kick, Mitch Owens. Holding his jumper. Stay out. Move it on. 50 metres. Yeah, I'm reporting it.
To question and know what Zak is, then say, he's accusing you of cheating, I just can't have it. I won't have it that Zak would do that.
I'd love to know the language that I said because I went up to him after the game and obviously just wanted to have a chat like any two humans do, and he said he didn't want to speak to me, and all I said is, how's that a free kick? And he came 50 and said I'm on report. So I had a few teammates there right next to me, Ollie Wine, so I'm curious to follow that one up because I'm never going to say anything bad to the umpire.
Bottom line, it seems overly sensitive because a lot of times an umpire take no notice of that. But if those words have been said, then the umpire's entitled to be offended if he chooses to.
I think we're old enough and big enough now to have a conversation then and there of what was said and potentially how he felt, rather than saying you're reported and running away.
Two things can be true, though. The umpire can think that he heard that, and Zak Butters can know that he didn't say that.
This is lose-lose. No one wins out of this.
How much are they paying you versus surely that's not a free kick. The umpire 100% adamant, the player 100% sure, and the tribunal charged with the task of balancing the probabilities and coming to a verdict. David Zeta has sat through the case tonight. David, welcome.
Hi, Jared. Hi, Gary.
How did it unfold?
Well, both sides, as suspected, both arguing that what their version of events was the correct version of events. So Zak Butters, of course, said that he was 100% certain that he did not say what he is alleged to have said by Nick Foot. Nick Foot himself gave evidence to start the tribunal hearing. He said that he was 100% sure on his side of things that Zak Butters said to him, how much are they paying you? Now, he was asked, did you think this was about a job you also have with Sportsbet? He said, no, I thought this was purely implying that St Kilda were paying me to make decisions that go in St Kilda's favour and against Port Adelaide. So he says he could not be clearer that that is what was happening. He had an earpiece in his right ear, but Zak Butters was to his left. That's why he was sure in what he was saying. Zak Butters was, in his words, a metre from him when he used that term. So Zak Butters, for his sake, said he said, surely that's not a free kick. Of course, you heard there in that piece, he gave an on-field interview where he said that what he said was, how is that a free kick? So the AFL tried to poke holes here and say he's not even sure as to what exactly he said. How can you believe him? But he says he's 100% sure he did not say what he is alleged to have said. Ollie Wines then gave evidence categorically denying that what Nick Foot said was accurate. Ben Rutten, Port Adelaide's head of football, said that Zak Butters came to the bench after having heard he'd been reported, and he was quite distressed, Butters, at the idea that he was reported for that in what he thought was quite an innocuous thing to say. So another really different quirk here in this one. So Renee Embom, the tribunal chair, has another commitment work-wise as well. So there weren't reasons provided tonight. There was a deadline. I think all parties just wanted to get the decision done at least today, and then reasons might have to wait until tomorrow morning. So the decision was that Butters was found guilty. So $1,500 fine has been issued to him for abusive and insulting language towards an umpire. Zak Butters himself commenting afterwards as well, and the Power now weighing up their options as to whether they appeal. But as it stands, they believe Nick Foot's version of events over that of Zak Butters.
The minor fine of $1,500, but so much more at stake than that. So I sat through this case as well. There was no one to corroborate Nick Foot's story, but there was no one to contradict it either. And this is the problem that I've seen routinely with players. There ended up being gentle inconsistencies between Butters and Wines' versions of events. How much did Butters say? As he was sort of led through the cross-examination he settled on, he said only one thing, and it couldn't have been any other moment than when the 50-metre penalty was paid. Wines thought Butters had said a few things along the way. Butters spoke much more. Wines spoke much more than Butters did throughout. Butters said that he didn't really hear everything that Wines said. Wines said he heard everything that Butters said.
The mics picked up none of it.
The mics picked up none of it, so it was described as the gaping hole in the evidence, which is quite right, but it didn't pick up anything that Wines said as well as nothing that Butters said.
I think that's important to differentiate, because there are conspiracy theorists out there, which is fair enough, and particularly those that sit outside the footy realm. So this is standard behaviour to turn mics up and down.
So there are faders that go up and down without going too far down the rabbit hole. It can be explained. I don't think anybody is helped by the fact that the audio is missing.
No, if it was there, it would have sold us a hell of a lot.
And it would have been a written case. There would have been an email sent back refuting it, and it wouldn't have gone through all of this. If you had to judge, if you had to come to a verdict singularly on the testimony that was offered and the quality of evidence, you would have come down on the side of the umpire. Now, how that serves the overall and whether that's a satisfactory outcome, that's in the mind of well, everyone will have their own view on that. But if you sat through it, the unequivocal testimony of the umpire versus the gentle inconsistency between the players, that was the only way to come to a verdict.
So you said that there was no one to contradict what Nick Foot had to say. Does Ollie Wines not fit into that category? Wasn't he there?
No.
He wasn't strong enough?
It's entirely possible that if Butters muttered something at the end, Wines wouldn't have heard it.
Because the two of them had
They were far enough apart. There was differences on who heard with such great clarity. It's very unsatisfactory, to be honest, having sat through it. But if you had to land one way or the other, it was going to land with the more compelling witness.
Well, then the fine's light. If the AFL have come to a conclusion, and whether you agree or disagree with it, then they are saying that it is right that Zak Butters has accused Zak Foot of being paid to pay free kicks deliberately, and therefore $1,500 is light. They should have hit him with what did Daisy Thomas get?
He got 7.5. He used an expletive and cheat.
Yeah, well, that's okay. The expletives are used all day long.
Yeah.
But when you...
Isn't it just a smart aleck remark?
No, of course it is,
It's a bit of a slap over the
Of course it
wrist.
is, but when you get... It's an emotional case, and I experienced this today on radio. So, and Kenny Hinkley comes out definitive in his support of Zak, which is fantastic. There would be people come out definitive in support of Nick if you wanted to go looking for them. I'm sure there is. So then you got two blokes who are 100% adamant that they said something. So trying to come out with I don't know how you... Well, maybe it's on the back of the contradiction. I don't know. But if you are saying, no, you said that he's getting paid to give free kicks away, then 1,500 is light. But anyway, that's semantics. Maybe they realised that it was hard to come to an agreement, so give them the 1,500 and get on with that. Excuse me. My advice is you out there believe what you want to believe. Do I think that this has sullied the reputation of Zak Butters? Personally, I don't, because I will choose what I know of Zak as a person personally and what he said. I suspect there might be some misunderstanding out there. I'm not saying that Nick Foot's making stuff up, but I will choose what I choose to believe, and it's not going to affect the way I think about Zach, and I doubt very much whether anyone else is, because, yeah, maybe it does fall on the side of smart Alec, but as I said, tried to explain last night, maybe I didn't do a great job about it. That's not how Nick Foote took it, which is why when Ray Chamberlain gets in here, he'll give you some clarity.
Nick used the phrase, when your integrity is questioned, you don't forget those words that are said to you. So it did land heavily with him. This was Zak Butters a short time ago at the conclusion of the case.
OK. Zak will make a short statement. Thanks, mate.
Incredibly disappointed with the result tonight. I stand by knowing what I said and what I didn't say, especially what I didn't say. I'd like to thank the club for the support. Yeah, thank you.
Will you appeal?
So why it's so difficult for Zak and anyone who's a supporter of Zak, which, you know, we are, I am anyway, he's now been told you're a liar.
So that's the most unsatisfactory part of having to reach a verdict in these circumstances is that you lean one way or the other, and you have to judge Zak as untruthful to come to that conclusion. And that didn't sit terribly comfortably either.
No, well,
but you have to choose one or the other in the way that the tribunal is set up on the balance of probabilities.
Yeah. So there was no chance for an insufficient...
So I would have been inclined, and so they wouldn't have done this, I would have been inclined to deliver an open verdict.
Right.
There's no way of coming to a satisfactory
Why
outcome
couldn't they have done
here. I just don't think that's the way the tribunal is set up. And the $1,500, this is the most minor offence that there is. I know there's gravity around it in the way that it's been presented, but on the table of offences, this is as minor as it gets. So the tribunal is asked to use its best judgment and go one way or the other.
So they couldn't, in all conscience, we are not satisfied that
was not countenanced in any way. But from the outside, I would have been leaning towards that. I've got a footnote here. I don't mean that to be a pun. Nick Foote should remove himself from the sports betting agency that he's associated with. He shouldn't be paid by that agency from here going forth, because he's an important figure in the game. He's already a grand final umpire. He had to answer questions today under cross-examination of whether his integrity and whether that employment was clouding the view around his umpiring, and he conceded that conversation is happening at the moment. That is both unfair on him and something that he's in control of. Step away from that until you're finished as an AFL umpire, because his status in the game is vital. As a grand final umpire.
There'll be people watching, though, that don't understand where he sits in the sports bet landscape. So he has clearly got nothing to do with football gambling, clearly nothing along those... It is absolutely you use it 100% in the horse racing industry. So I just want to clarify.
Yeah, you can't take that check.
No, well...
Not with the integrity that has played out through this, and he's the unfortunate victim of that, but he's in control of that himself. Just step away from it, just remove it as a possibility.
Yeah. There's a lot of checks being taken from betting agencies across the world of football.
There is, but I just don't think an umpire, on his own self-reflection now, should go, no, I'll do that later on.
Yeah, even if it's at the racing
and even if it feels desperately unfair. Just remove that cloud from yourself. He's in total control of that.
All right. Is there anyone's reputation lost in this?
I don't. That will be judged in the court of public opinion.
I don't think so. I don't think so. Ray Chamberlain can come in and give us some real context around this because, as I said, no one barracks for the umpires. I get that. I try to give some sort of a balanced perspective today, and, you know, no one's in support of umpires. Ray will be here to tell us what it's like.
There was a case of greater gravity running in parallel, which was the conclusion of the Lance Collard case, with a penalty hearing being conducted and the suspension handed down. David, how did this finish?
Yeah, well, and thank you upstairs to Will Faulkner and Max Lawton, who helped us cover two cases concurrently. This is not something that usually happens. And this case ended with Lance Collard being handed a 9-week ban. 2 of those weeks have been suspended for this season and next season. So effectively a 7-week ban there. There was a 90-minute deliberation. They came back with 11 reasons as to why it was very detailed. It's as detailed as anything you're going to hear from the tribunal when it comes to reasons. And that is because, as you said, the stakes were incredibly high. So to put it into context, St Kilda are arguing that, you know, given Lance Collard, he's had a difficult upbringing, he's got himself on the right path. And in their words, Michael Borski's words, who was representing the Saints, is also a Saints board member. He said that this is one of those sliding door moments that could have set Lance Collard back on the wrong track and ruin his life. We respectfully ask the tribunal to show some mercy and wisdom in helping the AFL course correct. So they said this was more something like a Jaden Stevenson gambling ban that he received was a 10-game suspension. They thought this was, when you look at abusive language, this is more probably in the realm, not exactly a fine, they didn't specify what, but closer to the lower end of that 10-game scale, certainly than what the AFL was arguing for, which was the 10-game ban. So they came back, 9 games, 2 of those suspended, and now that is all done, and St Kilda weigh up their rights as to whether they appeal that as well.
That's the most challenging case I've seen in my whole time in footy go before a tribunal, trying to follow that, and I didn't envy anybody their involvement in it.
So it's what we just saw with Butters at a whole different level.
On a grand scale.
But on the basis of 2 very, very adamant parties saying one thing was said whilst another disputed it. So, yeah, that's well, I haven't followed it like you from a VFL point of view, but that's a horrible outcome for everyone. Essendon doubled down on its long-term strategy today. They conducted briefings with both of Melbourne's newspapers, which were presented at length to absorb today. There were essentially 3 aspects to it. The President and the Chief Executive remain committed to the long-term strategy that had been put in place by the previous administration. They are committed to the painful long-term rebuild that still has 2 years of draft picks to acquire, and Brad Scott will be given the term to be the next Premiership coach. It finished, Jay Clark's piece finished with the quote from Andrew Welsh, the President: "We are united for everyone who thinks they can cause disruption for the path we are on," which ended the idea that the Essendon Warlords were going to be able to shake things up, perhaps topple a coach and regain control of the club. This is as comprehensive as you can get. You only do this if you're utterly unequivocal on your path. You can sit tight and see how things go, or you can go all in, and Essendon have gone all in. Agree or disagree, I admire the way that they have backed their man up here, because this is a club that's been riddled with factional voices in the background supporting one person or another. And if they think he's the man, now you might disagree, I might disagree. If they think that Brad Scott is the man, that they've been through a hell of a lot of pain, but the list is in a place where they can ride this out as long. And he did say the next Premiership coach, which is the most jarring of it all. You go, gee, you're taking a big punt there. But he put some riders on it. If we continue to develop, if the rate of development of the talent and all that sort of stuff, then I admire it. I don't have an issue with it in the end. I think they committed to this before the weekend. Yes. Both those interviews, which is important to put out. It's not as if they had their first win and said, right, come and see us now, we'll give you some quotes. So I think that's really important. And I think the reaffirmation it's what they haven't had in recent times. So agree or disagree, I liked it. What do you think? Yes, as if you had to be sure you're all sticking to the long-term plan, which was the question right at the start of the season. Is everyone still in this together with the change in the 2 key positions? And they are. So we now absolutely know that. And having got to where they've got to, it's the only play they have is the long-term acquisition of high-end talent, which is why these 2 years there's not going to be sharp rises here. No. By design, they have to scoop from the draft in the next 2 to be able to spike then whilst developing what they've already got on their list. But that's the right way to go. I think it's the only play they have. I think it's the only and right is to continue to build your best young talent, take your draft picks because you know what's coming. Now's the time to do it. There's been a lot of pain attached to it, but go again. And whatever that throws up and wherever they end, because we all are guilty of knee-jerking every now and then, but when you go back and do an analysis of it, I think the talent's there. I think the talent at the draft, they missed. It was interesting that Nick Cox was the emergency on the weekend. They can get Nick Cox back into that side and playing at a level. Yeah. Maybe Archie Perkins' penny drops now to realise, hey, this is no longer guaranteed. It is undeniable, Jared. There's a dozen of them. And they'll go back to the draft again and back to the draft again, and then they said they'll attack free agency if that presents itself. And Brad, is it the end of 27? Is he contracted to the end of 27?
They put the extra year on, yes.
Yeah, so I think that's right. He gets this year. Brad Scott gets this year, having dealt with what he dealt with last year, and next year to make sure that he will be their next finals coach.
Yes,
not going
just get that one final. What it does, I thought, reading between the lines, Welsh is saying the factions at Essendon are noisy, but they have no power.
Yeah.
So listen to them all you like.
That's significant.
But they are not shaking the foundations of this club.
That's significant, Jared, because you know and I know that They are strong, emotional voices that carry weight around that footy club that haven't always been in alignment with the footy club. And if you've got someone now that says, you have your opinion, but it ain't holding any weight with us.
Grand milestones coming this weekend. The Cats have got one. The Lions have got two. Josh Dunkley reaches 200. All eyes to Lachie Neale as he reaches 3.
I didn't realise. I think there's probably only 115 roughly that have done it. So, yeah, I'll soak up this week with my family. It means a lot. Probably be a little bit emotional this week, but to share it with Dunks, like he said, it's a special honour. And I've said it before, he's my favourite teammate I've ever played with. So to run out with him in a joint milestone will be a really special day, and hopefully we can get a win for it.
You don't understand how much he goes to work on his game until you see it up front. So to be able to, obviously understand that he's here and I might be joining him was a massive honour. And for me personally, he's taught me a lot. I hope I've been able to share some stuff with him too, but it's been nice to be able to build that relationship and, now be close mates and having a milestone together.
300 is the measure of excellence and longevity. And what about the CV that Lachie has put together? So this is obviously Hall of Fame stuff. 2 flags as captain, 2 Brownlows, 6 best and fairest with 2 clubs, 4 All-Australians, and now the 300 games.
He could have 4 Brownlows.
Yes.
So he won in 2020 and 2023. He was second in 2022 by a vote and third in 2019. His best and fairest, I think best and fairest is where you go back to look at clubs. So you go back to 2016 at Fremantle, first, missed games. First, missed games, first, second, first, missed games.
Yeah.
So he's either won it or finished runner-up when he's played, the vast majority. He is a modern-day great, Lachie Neale.
Yep.
I remember doing this last year, or the start of last year, we were saying, I think we slept on this guy in terms of his record. And then he franked it again with his performance in the grand final off the back of no playing time. So, no, he's a modern-day great. And the bloke next to him, that guy there, played in 5 grand finals.
Yes.
Look, there's so many stories coming out of Brisbane where we just brush over it. And you go, oh, yeah, Will Ashcroft, two Norm Smith, big deal. Josh Dunkley, big deal. 5 grand finals he's played in, Jared. He's playing 200 game on the weekend. He's one of the great recruits for the Brisbane Lions.
All right, the other great story is Mark Blicavs, and we'll revel in that with Patrick Dangerfield next. Our players are about to join us before Ray Chamberlain comes and sits with us on an important night. Patrick Dangerfield and Harry Mackay, the Cats and the Blues represented as they look towards the events Thursday and Friday nights.
The 3 words that stand out for me: professionalism, he's humble and he's selfless. Not a bad way to be in a club that you want to have success at.
Blicavs! The Blitz! In game 299!
Mark Blicavs, we're looking forward to this 22-year-old.
He's a world-class athlete. Missed the London Olympics and then decided to try his hand at footy again.
Puts it through. Well done. First goal.
It's been a good journey. Like Scotty always mentions, enjoy it and make the most of every moment because your career is over quicker than you think.
Number 46, Mark Blicavs.
I try and look back on it and I'm like, geez, it's gone really, really quick. I think I'll look back on it with some really special memories, and it's a good achievement and one I'm pretty proud of.
This is one of those where I think we all should pause for a little while and recognise it. And one thing I know for sure is that when I look back on my time in the game, Mark will be one of the first people that I think about.
It's almost a footy parable, the steeplechaser who became a 300-gamer. One's played against him and one's played an awful lot of footy with him. Harry Mackay, great to have you here, Harry.
Thanks, Jared. Great to be here.
Patrick Dangerfield. Paddy, welcome back.
Thanks, boys. Thanks for having me.
You can lead the way. What do you think of when we talk Mark Blicavs' 300 games?
One of the most... Not one of, the most selfless player that I've played with. An extraordinary athlete, but actually one who has incredible game awareness. What he's been for us is the ultimate Swiss Army knife. It's extraordinary when you look through the stats around the versatility, and it's not over the course of, a game here or a game there, and he's played, more forward than back. It's over the course of 300 games and the split of defence, midfield, ruck, forward. It's quite extraordinary, and we've been, such a big part of our success has been off the back of what Mark has provided us with.
What a tool to have from a coaching point of view. And we're all in the business of the big statement these days in the media. We want to categorise everything. He's the best Mark, he's the best this. But he's the most versatile footballer that's ever played. I know Anthony Kutafidi's name gets thrown up and he would be in the argument, but I don't know of any other player that's done what he's done throughout the course of his journey. So to have watched it unfold, and from the most unlikely of places to now get it to 300 and say, this is the most versatile footballer that's ever played the game, arguably, we can all have the argument, I think he's one of the more incredible footy stories ever, up there with the very best.
So at times he was going to be the next great defender, so I imagine he played with you, on you a fair bit.
Yeah, he has, and he certainly was one of the hardest to play. And I remember years ago now, but maybe 2020, he was playing as a key back, and I'm playing down in Geelong, and I don't think I got many kicks. But anyway, the game was kind of close in the last quarter, and he'd start on me in the goal square, and he'd just absolutely charge forward and get involved in their forward 50. And the message would come down, Harry, can you just run with him for a bit and try and... I'm like, I can't, mate. What more do you want me to do? So, obviously a tremendous player. To get to 300 games is incredible, and always a tough matchup when he comes to you. And
the rate of development, Paddy, I mean, the apocryphal story is always that he could have run in the Olympics. I'm not sure whether that's true or not, but in terms of the pre-season training, I've heard stories about him just lapping blokes. Probably you.
No, it was me, Gary. I was laughing when Harry was talking about him taking off. So we used to do a 15-minute test, and it was run for 15 minutes. It is hell on earth, and it's run around a 400-metre track. And you wouldn't have enjoyed it, big fella. Anyway, so we'd take off, and probably with 5 minutes to go, I would see him almost in the peripheral, and then he'd come past. He'd tap me on the butt and keep running, and I'd be swinging, trying to collect him with my arm, always missing him because he was just gone, like Roadrunner. Thankfully, I wasn't the only person that he'd lapped during those pre-season sessions, but he's one of the few guys that you could literally rest on the wing. I've been fortunate enough to spend some time in the box to watch the game from a different angle of recent times. And the conversations around Blitz are hilarious because it's like, well, Blitz will just fix that, and it's whatever position it is, whether it's defence forward or midfield. And he's just this tool that the coaches use. Oh, he'll fix that. We'll plug him in there. And I think he's been a victim of his incredible versatility, and his personal CV is extraordinary. But I think it would have been even better had we not been so selfish as a team because we want him everywhere at the expense of probably some more personal accolades, whether that's all Australians or other, because he played in so many positions so often and so consistently. If he was just, booked in as a winger or as a second ruck or as a defender, I think he would have had more of those rewards. But the best thing for the team has been to move him, and the incredible thing about Mark is he has always been a team first player. That's why he's so his teammates love him so much. But it's probably been at the missing out of some of those individual awards.
He'll get a great salute on Friday nights. Are you going to be there? Do you still play, or have you retired and just not told us?
I think so. I mean, that's the plan. We've got main training tomorrow, so I don't think it'll take too much of the twisting of Chris's arm, but he was a bit reserved today in his presser, so thanks, Scotty. But that's definitely the plan.
So played a game, 28 days off, played a game, 34 days off, as if just about got this sussed.
I'm approaching 40, Jared. It's a long season. It goes for 6 months.
Yeah, you're part of a double header on Friday night. If I can just explore your thoughts on that from an former AFL Players Association president. Is that the right thing, that we're putting the world's of focus on you guys for the Western Bulldogs and Geelong, and if you end up being 8 up or 8 down, we can flick over and watch the Battle of the Bridge? Is that a good thing for footy?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, guys. I saw the AFL sort of response around it with fixturing, but it just doesn't feel right for me. I think Friday night and the Saturday night time slots and what Thursday night has become, I think it's nice to have one show in town and everyone tunes into it, and you've got to earn the right almost as a player and as a team to feature in those big games. So I don't know. For me, it doesn't quite feel right. I get why Big Coxie wasn't too happy about it. But I also understand there's the challenges around fixturing and how difficult that can be from time to time. So fitting it all in is tough, but it doesn't feel, as a footy purist, I don't feel like it's right.
The Carlton side of things, Harry, you would have liked a better first 20 quarters, I'm sure. What is your sense? You've lived this a few times over. What's your sense of it right now?
Yeah, I think, to be really honest, I think we played some pretty solid footy, just without like 120 minutes. I think we played 100 solid minutes, and then that 20 minutes or that small 10% has killed us. Obviously, win-loss, it would be great to be in a different spot, but that's the nature of footy, and we've only got ourselves to blame. I do think on the weekend or last week, we played, again, pretty solid footy for 3 and a bit quarters against a pretty good side. So definitely heading in the right direction. We would have loved a couple more wins, but inside the four walls, it feels different to maybe historically the last few years. It feels very stable and very sound, and even though, as I said, the results haven't been ideal, the way we're going about it and the trajectory seems pretty clear. So it's still got a good feeling about it.
And you would, Jer's right, you've lived this a bit, and you would have watched Essendon on the weekend that had been through their trials and tribulations for the best part of 3.5 months or 4 months of footy. Is it that one win away that you think, or is this a situation where, OK, if we were able to pinch Collingwood, which would be great for everyone at Carlton, obviously, given the rivalry, but you know where you're at as a footy club, and you've had to get your head around that. So Charlie's departed, you're the lone man up there, things are changing constantly.
Yeah, it looks a little bit different. I think, firstly, obviously a win would be fantastic. Anytime you play Collingwood, the 4 points is great to get. I think a little bit of reward for some of the good footy we've been playing would be great for the club and for the 22 that have been playing, and maybe some of the younger boys that have stepped into it for the first time. But ultimately, I think for us as a group, how we're playing is more important than the result, in terms of we just want to play 120 minutes of our footy, and we know that'll give us the best chance to win games. But yeah, I think, as you saw with Essendon on the weekend, it's never as far away as it seems. And I think, at footy in the industry, we're good at kind of extremes, high and low, and reality inside the four walls, we try and keep it pretty measured. So I don't think we're too far away. Definitely a little bit different with that, Charlie, but it's been good fun, been a challenge, and I think the guys we've brought in and the new look down there has been exciting. It always takes a little bit of time, but things are good. 5
starts for you, 7 goals, and you're almost there. Do you feel it? Well, I'm watching, so you tell me. So you're getting hands to plenty of footy, but they're not quite sticking maybe as they once did. Do you feel that it's just a little bit away, or how have you seen your opening?
Yeah, I think probably similar to the team stuff. You're never too far away. I think as a key forward, the margins are so fine. I guess overall, our main job is to compete in the air, bring the ball to ground, and if you keep launching the ball, more will stick than they won't. I think over the five games is, I think, is sometimes a result of what happens above the field, and forwards always would like a bit more better ball movement, but no, all they can keep doing is keep showing up. I think ahead of the ball we're competing pretty well and scoring relatively well when it comes in, but it's you always like to stick a few more guys, but keep going.
I love when we get a little glimpse into what goes on. The Players' Player Award. What is that? Because it was awarded to you on Thursday night.
Yeah, every week the 22 that play, or 23 now, isn't it? Vote on their, I guess, player's player, and not necessarily about kicks, marks, handballs. It's more about who lives our values for the best kind of throughout the 120 minutes. And I got that this week, and it's always nice to be able to highlight guys within the 22 that are playing their role well, and regardless of maybe the external kicks, marks, handballs and recognition, it's something that we hold pretty highly within four walls. So it was nice.
Well done. Patrick, the running capacity of 2 of your players blows my mind. We just talked about Mark Blicavs, who'd be there as well. And Chris plays Max Holmes off, half back on the weekend, and he goes and racks up whatever he did, and then Bailey has 15 inside 50s. I mean, is it possible that they have got themselves into a physical position where no one can go with them? So now we just judge them on what they do once they get the footy.
I don't know about no one being able to go with them. I think They're really well coached with the roles that they have. They're able to do what they do because of players like Tom Atkins, Warps, Mark Blicavs, and others that are in and around at times covering off. So it's not just all-out offence, but we understand the weapons that we've got, the ability for them to run and carry, and that's a really important part of our game. So the flexibility is an important piece too. So for Max to be able to go back and then to bring in someone like Tanner Bruin who offers a different dynamic in that midfield that doesn't quite have the run and carry potential of the other two, but I would argue he's better with his feet inside the contest to step in and out. So we feel like we're building a pretty special trio. Those two that you mentioned are obviously integral to the way that we want to play and the flexibility that we want to have, and we want to be unpredictable to the opposition. But, they were both pretty special on the weekend, and I think the special part for Geelong people is those two are only going to get better, and they're still quite young.
Give us a word on the overarching topic tonight. So the fine that Zak Butters has been handed for umpire abuse and specifically what is alleged and what is contested. How have you been able to absorb this, Pat, as someone with so much experience, particularly from the Players Association side of things?
Yeah, I think it's been, from all fronts, a bit disorganised, really. It's unfortunate because as soon as you have the integrity of someone brought into question, whether that's the umpire or that's the player, which what was alleged to have been said or did not say, then it becomes sticky. And then when it isn't clean because there is no evidence, you rely upon he said, she said. So I think we all agree it hasn't exactly been an ideal way to handle things. And I think the AFL are in a really difficult position because I think it's integral that we support umpires. It is difficult enough to get umpires, coaching at junior levels and then transitioning to want to umpire at the top level. At the same time, if I put myself in Zak Butters' position, it's a really difficult one. If you're certain of what you've said and then you're seeking clarification at the end of the game, I thought that could have been handled far better. And I understand the commentary around it was that we're instructed not to enter into discussions regarding a reportable offence. What we're seeking, I think, is a real mutual respect. And I think that sort of went away from that just a tad. I think you can have a level of conversation, or at least we certainly should endeavour to have a level of conversation, even once the storm has passed and the game is finished. I've certainly had that with umpires at the end of quarters, at the end of halves, around certain contentious issues and things that have happened. So I think that's important that does happen. And I think in this instance, because of what we're discussing and the fact that it does speak to integrity, I think there's a bit of a pub test that you've got to go, actually, this is worthy of discussion. And I think if it was presented that way, even though it wasn't exactly how the AFL would write the rule book, well, I think that's an important conversation to have. So I don't think it's really benefited the competition nor the players all that much the last sort of couple of hours.
We'll pick that up in a tick. The Peter Mac Cup, we've brought that. You've brought that in tonight for us. So
am I grabbing that or no?
We're getting shot. This is television, big H. Look at that. We've got shots of it without having even put our hands
on it.
And boots. I love your boots.
You like the Asics, Jared?
Yeah. No, we were having to play with those before.
Yeah, Paddy uses a new pair every week, he told us.
It must be nice.
The longest running partnership and charity with Collingwood and Carlton, the Peter Mac Cup, the Stand Against Cancer. Yep. It is a really significant game, and I know that you're honoured to be a part of it.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a fantastic game to be part of. Every year it's really special. Obviously, every dollar raised going to the Peter Mac Foundation for money for research towards cancer. So as a player, I absolutely love being part of those games that are bigger than the 4 points. And yeah, we can't wait to get out there Friday night. And in the midst of two big rivals going at it, I think there's something beautiful in the fact that there's a bigger cause to it. So
well said,
and the purple laces give a visual for that, don't they?
Absolutely, every player will be wearing purple laces, so keep an eye for that.
There's a QR code. We all know someone and have been touched, whether it's directly or indirectly, from a cancer point of view. So if you can contribute, the QR code is right there. And Thursday night, it'll be great to have a win. And do the great things that Collingwood and Carlton continue to do.
Great to have you here, Harry. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Paddy, we'll see you for your roster day on Friday night.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Patrick Dangerfield and Harry Mackay with us on Players' Night. Ray Chamberlain is about to join us, and then the midweek tackle, Lauren Wood, takes John Ralph and Scott Gullen through the hotbed issues in footy right now.
St Kilda onto the jumper. St Kilda free kick, Mitch Owens. 50 metres.
Matters escalated significantly from this moment on. It's played out in the court of public opinion. It's played out at the tribunal late today. It has led to a $1,500 fine for umpire abuse for Zak Butters, who is unsatisfied still, to say the least. Ray Chamberlain has followed this right throughout and sits with us in the immediate aftermath. Ray, it's great to have you back.
Jared, Gary, good to be back.
Good to have you.
So the Dangerfield view is that this hasn't helped anybody. What's your overarching view?
I think that's a really reasonable sentiment from Paddy. I was sort of thinking about this over the week on the way in, and I've had the privilege to work with all three of the boys who are on the field, Ollie and Zach, and I know Nick, and I've worked with him, and all three of those lads have got some personal characteristics that are very similar, actually, that they don't even know. And they're all guys I respect, and I really enjoy their company. So, yeah, I tend to agree with Pat.
Can you see how this has got to a stage where two blokes talking to each other, not too far apart, with one teammate close by, and one is 100% adamant that this is what he heard, and the other is 100% adamant that that is not what he said?
Absolutely. I've got a couple of mates who are coppers, and we speak about this a lot, mainly when we're talking about parenting, Gary. And one person can view something, and one person the same thing, but from alternate positions, and give two entirely different accounts. That's common practice in policing, actually. So it is really reasonable to think that actually both fellows are telling absolutely their truth, and we've got a miscommunication or a misunderstanding. So
how is that reasonable to think that?
Well, you've played in front of big crowds and noise, and you hear thing and you think you heard something, but potentially it wasn't said that way. We weren't out there.
No.
And sadly, we don't have the audio. So I actually don't want to hypothesise about what did or didn't get said, because we actually don't know.
No, we don't.
Yeah, we don't know.
So why does it matter to an umpire to have his integrity questioned, whether it's smart alecky or something more sinister?
Yeah, because it cuts to the very premise of what it is that you're undertaking. The role of the umpire is to ensure that the game is played in a fair and safe manner, and that's your responsibility, without fear or favour. And so when that gets called into question, you're cutting at the very essence of who that person is in terms of their role. You were talking about at the front about expletives and whatever. They wash over an umpire. You hear it's commonplace. I think the words, the way you described it, and it's true. And that generally doesn't have much of an impact on an umpire personally. But when you're calling into question the very fundamental essence of what it is that they're doing and who they are, that does cut to the bone. Now, lots of people will be saying, umpires, you've got to have a thick skin. And let's be honest, that is true, right? You're going to undertake that role. There's an element of that stuff in general that you've got to be able to endure and handle and work through and understand that the players are ripping in. Like, it's emotive, it's combative, it's rarefied environment, it's addictive. I miss it still. I miss 90,000 at the MCG going off at you and abusing you and carrying on. And so you've got to have an understanding of that balance. And then I think at the same time, it's if we're going to get a great relationship between player and on-field official, there's a reciprocity piece at play whereby players need to acknowledge, don't go there. Be emotive, be passionate, compete, don't go there. Yeah.
This might be an unfair question to you, but is anything along these lines being directed at you that you've let go and then balls up the other end and you turned around and said, listen, let's leave that alone and not go there again?
No, that's not unfair at all. That's a really reasonable question. I'd much prefer to talk about things that I've been involved in than one that involves these guys, to be fair, because I wasn't involved in that. I had one more recently, just before the end of my career, just in the COVID period, where a player made a comment that was in a similar vein about whether I was wearing an opposition jumper under my shirt.
Right.
And I asked him, "Are you talking to me?" And often in that set of circumstances, that's enough, because the player will go, "I've made my point, but I'll pull up and he's given me an out," and that'll look after itself. On this particular occasion, the player thought he'd double down, so he goes, "Who else am I talking to?" So I was really aggrieved by that, actually, because I'd given him the opportunity and he didn't want to take it. I chose to take action after the game. It was after a goal had been scored. It's back and forward. The game's restarted. I just went, "I'm going to leave this, but not forever. I'm going to pick this up."
So what happened? How did
it got resolved? It got resolved off field.
You and him got together, or was it?
There was communication and collaboration and mediation, and we resolved it. We came to an agreement that we understood where one another stood on it, and we've been kosher ever since.
Do you think that had? And this is not a crack at Nick Foot. He's
no.
absolutely entitled to do whatever he wants. But did this have the scope and the capacity to be handled like that?
Well, there's definitely the scope and the capacity. The other thing I would say is I have reported players before, and other umpires have reported players before for abusive or insulting language. I think the key thing here is that we don't have any evidence, and it's disputed that it was said, not so much that the report was laid.
Yeah.
I think that's where it creates, because it's one word against the other.
Had the report not been laid, it would have opened an avenue to have privately dealt with it, would it not?
So I think there's an opportunity that comes out of any of these things. And I suspect, well, I'm absolutely certain that the game will be thinking, there are no winners in this, just as Pat intimated. So what's the way we want this to be handled moving forward? We're not going to walk past it. You can award a free kick on field, 50 metres, umpire abuse, leave it at that. You don't have to go into the specifics. And then do we take it offline and work through what has to happen from there? So I think it's an opportunity for the players, for the umpires, but it needs to be led by the game.
And there was the report that Zak wanted to talk to Nick post-game, and Nick said no. That's led to some criticism, some strong criticism of it being fairly weak. But in actual fact, the laws of the game don't allow for an umpire to discuss a reported incident with the reported player.
That is true, and so it could have been perceived as being, dismissive or disrespectful or weak or what have you. But quite the opposite. He's not permitted to do that. I know, that had been communicated also prior to the end of the game. There was attempts at three-quarter time. One thing I will say is that it's really been interesting for me being on the other side of the fence now for a period of time. You learn a lot of things that you didn't know otherwise. And it's really important that media understand that they're not to approach umpires during the game. We can't have that. That's absolutely unacceptable.
Has that happened with you?
That's happened on the weekend. And so that...
A media person?
Yeah, absolutely. And people have got responsibilities and they need... So, we're not talking about that. That needs to be addressed.
Has that been reported?
I'm sure it's been addressed.
I know we're running out of time. What is the relationship right now, do you think, between the umpiring fraternity and the playing group?
Oh, that would be a question for those involved. I'll say this, by and large, the relationships are outstanding. We went through COVID just recently, and we were living in the same hotels as full clubs for 2 weeks, eating, weights, playing cricket, all of the things. By and large, the relationship with the players and the officials, and in fact the whole ecosystem, is really buoyant and positive. That's my experience.
Do you want to be mic'd up as an umpire?
I think it's wonderful in that it serves as generally an insurance policy for umpires, because by and large they colour between the lines, and so if there's something that gets tabled, there's an evidentiary piece there to support. It's unfortunate that hasn't caught it on this occasion.
If they weren't broadcast and they were just recorded, it would serve the insurance piece, because I'm sure we're talking faders here, not out in the ether. Ray, good to have you with us.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Raises edge on an important night around the relationship between players and umpires. Simo and Horse tomorrow night. They make us smarter every Wednesday. So back together, heading towards round 6. What are the trends that they're identifying right now to bring before you, colouring the fortunes of your team? Tomorrow night, Timo and Horse here to join us, make us smarter for round 6. We have gone over tonight because of the 2 significant tribunal cases. Zak Butters, the $1,500 fine, the guilty verdict more significant than the penalty, and Lance Collard, 9 games in a case of real gravity. So we'll hand over to midweek tackle because
plenty to get their teeth into.
Absolutely their domain.